Solar eclipse in Leo. If you prefer to go straight to the visualization of the celestial bodies and their movements and skip the aligning of posture and deep breaths, go ahead to the minute 2:44. Let's find a comfortable, quiet place, either lying down or seated. We observe our posture. Let's align the spine. Draw the navel in. Align the hips, followed by the knees and the feet. Now, observe your shoulders. Align them. Roll them back. Let's lengthen the neck by lowering the chin. We prepare for a deep breath. First, we'll draw the air down to the diaphragm while keeping the navel engaged. Then to the ribs, and finally to the chest and collarbones, aiming to inhale as much air as possible, but gently, without straining. We imagine the air we breathe like a radiant ray of sunlight. Now, inhale. Draw the air into the abdomen, then the ribs, chest, and collarbones. Exhale. We inhale again. Abdomen, ribs, chest, and collarbones. Exhale. We inhale, ray of sunlight. The air reaches the abdomen, ribs, chest, and collarbones. We exhale and let go. Now, from this place of tranquility, let's visualize the celestial bodies and their movements. A new moon occurs whenever the sun and the moon align at the same degree from Earth's perspective. Since the sun is approximately 400 times larger than the moon disappears from the night sky. The sun's light dominates, rendering it invisible to our earthly eyes. Metaphorically, the moon dies and is reborn, beginning a new cycle. However, every so often, usually twice a year, during the conjunction of the moon and the sun, the moon transits at a precise angle that allows it to totally or partially eclipse the sun's light at some point during the day. This causes the earth to darken in broad daylight, transforming what would have been a new moon into a solar eclipse, visible from certain regions and times of our planet. On August 12, 2026, a total eclipse will occur in the sign of Leo. It will be visible in its totality along a path crossing the Arctic, Greenland, Ireland, and northern Spain, and as a partial eclipse across in the rest of Europe, North Africa, and parts of North America. Unlike conventional new moons, which are considered auspicious for sowing ideas, launching projects, or starting something new, eclipses are viewed as times to pause, seek shelter, be aware, and wait. In some ancient cultures, it was believed that the king was in danger during eclipses. It is said that a substitute king would be appointed to be sacrificed during the eclipse in order to protect the true monarch from any harm. An eclipse can be a time when old structures weaken and collapse. During the eclipse of August 12, 2026, the South Node will be in Leo, just a few degrees away from the eclipse itself. The South Node represents the past, the familiar, the old ways that feel comfortable out of habit, yet are not necessarily what is best or right. It serves as the starting point that sets our course toward the North Node, currently in Aquarius, our destination. In this case, pointing to the much discussed, long-awaited age of Aquarius. The eclipse reveals what needs to be purged, what wounds our hearts, given that Leo is the sign of the heart and ruled precisely by the sun. The situation becomes more complex because the eclipse is taking place within a stellium, comprising Mercury at 5 degrees of Leo, Jupiter at 9 degrees, the asteroid Psyche at 11 degrees, the eclipse itself, Sun and Moon at 20 degrees, and the South Node at 28 degrees, all standing in Leo. Let us begin with Psyche. In Greek, the word psyche means soul and was associated with the butterfly, symbolizing human transformation, fragility, and the quest for light. The caterpillar remains sheltered in the darkness of its cocoon while transforming. When ready, it emerges into the light, transformed into a butterfly. The darkness of the eclipse can represent this cocoon. As humanity, we are passing through dark times. If we take shelter and learn from our mistakes, we can use this darkness to transform ourselves. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, part of the stellium in this eclipse. In this moment of retreat and pause, let us allow ourselves to hear the unique message meant for each of us. The transformation that no one else can undertake for us but ourselves. Jupiter amplifies this message, bringing an energy of compassion and benevolence to these times of darkness. We must pass through the darkness to break free from the stagnation caused by a lack of questioning. For instance, the things we accept as normal. It is considered normal that most people on this planet do not have control of their own time, as they spend it in jobs to cover basic needs: food, electricity, water, housing, transportation, health care, their children's education, and so on. It is considered normal that, lacking this time, most parents miss the chance of sharing more time with their children. Instead, the children move from one institution to another, accompanied by their entertainment media. the source of most of their information, which overstimulates them, situations that leaves them feeling abandoned and lonely as young fellas, making them susceptible to addictions. Witnessing the pain of those parents who believed they were doing the right thing by working 8 hours a day to give their children the best, only to be left heartbroken, realizing that it wasn't the way. It was a trap. So many young people lose sight of life's purpose, believing that becoming a gangster or using drugs for entertainment or escapism is a valid choice. Some of them losing their lives prematurely because society never even looked their way, because was very busy working for governments or corporations on projects that had nothing to do with their life purpose either. Is this normal? Statistically speaking, yes, because this may well be the reality for the majority today. But is this right? Is it logical? How can we recover our time, our connection to nature, family, and to our own purpose? How to reconnect with youth? And what can we do for those who are currently children? How can we create an environment where they can develop their human potential? A potential that is wonderful, unique, and profound? Let us remember humanity is potential. The reality we manifest depends on the information we hold. We can take responsibility and exercise discernment, rescuing the invaluable knowledge left to us by our ancestors. Poets, philosophers, artists, scientists, alchemists, etc. The wisdom of this multicultural world safeguarded in books, buildings, and by the few who knew how to listen to their elders and carry the wisdom on how to treat the earth and the animals and how to heal ourselves and preserve health. Let us not forget traditional music, handicraft, art, human creativity, and warmth. This is the luminous side of Leo. With discernment, we can cast aside the information that steals our time and purpose. Those narratives of social engineering that only serve to divide us. Feminist against the patriarchy. The woke against the religious. Right against left. One religion against another. We do not need to fight for freedom and rights if we understand that each and every one of us deserves honor and respect at all times. If we offer that reciprocally, regardless of whether someone holds a different opinion, belongs to a different religion, or chooses to express their sexuality however they wish or are able to, we can see that the rhetoric dividing us is part of a strategy. Divide and conquer. What if, instead, we learn to value and respect one another despite our differences, and together reclaim what is truly valuable about the human spirit within its diversity? Aquarius, where the North Node is positioned during this eclipse, can signify exactly that. Learning to cherish and enrich ourselves through cultural and subjective diversity, celebrating how unique and distinct we each are, while recognizing our shared need to be respected, appreciated, and cared for, both as individuals and as the diverse cultures inhabiting this planet. Returning to the dark side of Leo, that which paradoxically the eclipse brings to light: tyranny, abuse of power, arrogance. This darkness is not observed solely in governments, international agencies, corporations, or international mafias, realms where we might feel we have no say or influence whatsoever. But what about tyranny and the abuse of power in our own lives, in our homes, within the animals in our care, with neighbors, siblings, children, parents, and friends? That is something we could actually start taking responsibility for, choosing neither to be victims nor victimizers. Right now, Mars in Cancer in conjunction with Ceres at the second degree, stirring up a kind of turbulence in our personal emotional worlds. Everyone in the world, leaders, oligarchs, priests, pastors, shamans, magicians, carpenters, blacksmiths, farmers, entrepreneurs, business people, poets, artists, musicians, forest rangers, mathematicians, etc. Everyone comes from a home, from a lineage. Even if we were abandoned, that is our lineage, and any combination of factors produce effects. How my father and mother were like. Did they abandon me, overprotect me, subject me to violence or abuse? Did they care? For generations, these tyrannical dynamics have played out within families. Grandparents traumatized by wars, inheriting fears and traumas. Great-grandparents wounded by conquest and the sadness and void caused by their native cultures being silenced and segregated. Without looking any further afield, there is much to observe in our own immediate, intimate lives. Failing to see the evil does not mean it isn't there. And this is what an eclipse represents. We can see that it is up to each of us to decide how we relate to the world around us. And it is the majority of us who continue to legitimize those who supposedly lead nations, corporations, and transnationals. We are the ones who legitimize them by entertaining their narratives, propping up their institutions, and aspiring to the ideals they sell us. They need us. That is why they use us to create the reality they design for their own benefit. A benefit of questionable value, for in the end, they too are trapped in this world, in their elitist and arrogant realities, fighting one another for power. So these circles of power also need to transform and break free, as they are slaves to themselves and their own inner circles. They need to transform for their own good, for they are rotting in their stagnation. That is why they are so afraid and use all their resources to keep the population divided, entertained, and repeating their narratives. But in the end, we are the same. We are born and we die. And in the meantime, couldn't we experience something more interesting and inspiring than the reality we all produce together nowadays? What would happen if we stopped paying attention to those social engineering narratives about what is supposedly going on? If as a collective we withdraw our focus from the narratives that parasite us and instead began to attend to what is truly ours to tend to, our relationship with our bodies and health, with our loved ones and acquaintances, with our animals, and with the natural ecosystem of which we are part of. This is the North Node in Aquarius. With Mars in Cancer and Ceres, let us look at the reality of our home. On a small scale, the body as our habitat, and the house in where we live our day-to-day lives and our relation dynamics. And on a large scale, the planet, our home. In this moment of eclipse, let us pause, take shelter, and calmly and carefully observe these truths, waiting for the right moment to patiently, day by day and in every gesture, contribute our own small part to the change. At this very moment of the eclipse, a grand air trine forms. Venus in conjunction with Icarus in Libra marks one vertex. Pluto retrograding in Aquarius forms another point. And Uranus in Gemini constitute the third vertex. This trine refreshes the atmosphere with its mental and idealistic energy, bringing beauty, innovation, and a desire for change, fresh air, and refreshing ideas. Paradigm shifts, new ideas, new realities. This current of air fanned the flames of Leo and Aries, fueling the fire alongside the stellium in Aries that has spent months showing our impulsive egos their limits by making us experience the consequences of our self-centered choices. Air fans the fire, and fire purifies. It destroys, leaving ashes behind, so that from those ashes we may be reborn, renewed. It is a time to observe, to accept reality in both its light and its darkness, and subsequently to refine, purify, and rectify, to envision recovering our time and our power by exercising discernment, to reconsider what makes existence valuable, to see that the future is not set in stone, and realize that each of us matters, that we hold the power to change the course of our lives, and in doing so, the entire world changes as well. It is time to take shelter, pause, observe, and care for ourselves and our loved ones during this solar eclipse in Leo. We breathe deeply, taking the air to the abdomen, ribs, chest, and collarbones. We exhale. We place our hands over our hearts with an energy of love, care, and healing for our own hearts and for the hearts of all sentient beings across the planet and the universe. We inhale deeply, filling ourselves with this energy of love and care, and we exhale, letting go of what we no longer need. Blessings. Heartfelt thanks for all your donations.